Excellent. So I have gone live, but not that obviously there. Let's just leave it to catch up because it's never quite guaranteed in this world. What's going on? Let's come out of there complete. Oh, there we are. Good. It's telling me Penta is live, but I can't see it live. Let me come out of there. Let's reset that. Excellent. Good. Now I can share. I am live now. Good evening, Sue. Thank you for watching, darling. Could you just write in the comments that you can hear me? I can certainly, because I've got my sound turned off. Good evening, Sheila. Hello, Sophie. Thank you, my darling. Much appreciated. Much appreciated. So, goody goody. I think it's possibly, yeah, it's just turned 6 o'clock, so that's always good and cool. So, I titled my live "And the Land of Fantasy" 3 weeks ago when I sent a whole collection of ideas off to Stamperia. And then, of course, Stamperia then released a paper called Fantasy World. So I'm sorry if that's what you're expecting this evening, because Fantasy World is so not what I'm using. It's the Fortune collection, because I think there's lots of bits in there that are a bit make-believe. Excuse me just while I fiddle, because that's most uncomfortable in its twisted state. There we are. Excellent, excellent. So we're going to be doing a little bit of all sorts of stuff today to make a picture, and we're going to be using 2 embroidery hoops, because if you've got one, what's better than one? Then clearly 2. And then I'm going to show you how to convert resin, this one, which is the super glass resin with inclusions, to something that is more mystical and magical. You can see the difference in the colours, though I have to say I think it's not picking up so very well on screen. But if I turn it over, again, yeah, it's looking very dark on camera, but it has got lots of soft colours coming through. So let me pop that over there. We're going to just use 2 pieces of paper and some elements from the collection. So let me pop those on the floor. I have a 6x6 and an 8x8 piece there. And I'm just going to start by popping some colour onto these hoops so that they can dry. And then we're going to play with some resin. And then we'll go back to some painting. But I just need these to dry before we can do much else. So I'm going to start with antique gold paint. Let's just shuffle that into there, and a more manageable brush from there. And of course I've got 2 of them to paint, so that's always good. There we are. So let's just pop this into here, and we'll cover these. I like the metallic paints, they cover pretty well, and I like the antique gold in particular. For those of you that can't get the 50mm pots, it is in the rust set from Pentart, so even if it's in a small tube, you will be able to get hold of it, which is always cool. So who else is joining? Good evening, Isabella. Hi, Jan. Hi, Liz. Hi, Crafty Jacks. I trust that you are well. So there we are, and we'll just have a little bit of a paint of these, because I need to put the paper on the backs of them, and obviously I can't do that when these are wet. So there we are. So that's what we're going to do. We'll just pop this onto it. It won't take very long, and then we'll have a little play with some resin, because I think it's a medium that maybe scares some people, and I'm using a clear resin, which might scare people even more. So we're going to do a couple of lives with the clear resin over the next week or a few weeks, with some different ideas and different techniques, just to, but in a mixed media style. If people would like, I could be enticed to make some jewellery using it. or a series of different things with them, if that's what we want. Hi Sarah, welcome my darling, thank you for sharing. Hello Elizabeth, thank you for joining us from, I think from, you're in Hungary, aren't you, from the look of your name. Though that may not be where you're residing, of course. So let's just pop that onto there, pop that onto there. I'm not expecting that paint to stick on the metal, and that's also just fine. So, oh, I do want that bit covered though. You see, we always have to check all of your surfaces, don't you? There we are. Cool. What's on the top I can cover easily enough, but there are some bits of it that I won't be so easily able to get to once the project is all assembled. There we are. So let's just pop that down there, and then let's do the smaller one. We'll be coming back to this paint, but later on for something else, because we're going to be mixing and matching. But there we are. So all is good, all is good. There we are. So how is everyone this evening? I've noticed that our weather isn't so bad. I'm rather hoping the gardener who's next door doesn't revert to getting his sort, whatever he is using out, because it was very noisy in my craft room with my next door neighbour. I think angle grinding some over poured concrete out of the way. So I'm rather hoping that doesn't happen again, because it will be very noisy if it does. There we are. Let's just do that last little bit, and then they can go there. As I say, we'll be going back to that paint, but for something different. But if we pop those over there, they can sit and dry. It won't take them very long. And as I say, I can go back to that. So we'll just lid that temporarily. Each to their own when it comes to sport, my darling. We all have our things that we like and things that we don't like. I think there are lots of people who would probably say that they would be happier watching sport than watching crafting. But, you know, as I say, it's each to their own. Right, let's get rid of the gold paint off there. And so we have some bits. So I have a Stamperia mould here, and I'm going to make in the big one, so because I think it's going to be easier to see. And I'm just going to pop that on there, and I'm going to show you how to recreate this from resin and some glitter, because I think it looks, well, you wouldn't necessarily know that the same, but you can just see the twinkle and the fact that there are some different colours in this. You'd rather watch paint dry. Me too, but there we are. So golden rules. Resin is a chemical, and it is not good for you to get it in contact with your skin. You may not be allergic to it now, but repeat exposure can certainly provoke a chemical sensitivity reaction over time. So golden rules for working with resin, let me just put those bits out there and I can move this back a little bit, is you need to have your hair tied back if you have long hair. Preferably no animals walking around to put their hands into something, and this is a plastic container, so I can recycle it easily enough, because that's more environmentally friendly. And you need your gloves on. Okay, apart from anything else, if you get this on your hands, it's sticky. Resin is sticky and it's difficult to shift. So gloves on, hair tied back up, animals locked out of the room, and a level surface, because resin is a liquid and it will move into a level surface. All right, excellent. So Pentart has a super glass resin. They sell it in 50ml, 125ml, and bigger quantities. And it is a simple 1-to-1 ratio consistency. So if I'm just going to pop some of oh, she says. So I'm going to have to lift this up in a minute, ladies, because I didn't think this through. Let me just squidge some in there, because it's important that you measure accurately. So if I just hold this up there, you'll be able to hopefully see what I'm doing with my thing on there. And you also always need a spare mold. So I have put 20 mils of part A into that pot, and it's reasonably thick but not too terrible. And this is part B, so I'm going to put another 20 mils onto here, and my pots have nice helpful markers on them, so that's easy. And the two are slightly different consistencies, but for the purposes of this resin and the quantities I'm using, measurements are fine. You don't need to get out a set of scales, which is super cool. Okay, so I'm going to get rid of that. No, we'll leave that on because it's going to be easy. And then it just needs a good stir together. The two components are slightly different densities, and when you start mixing them, the whole thing goes cloudy, and that's very normal. Don't panic at that stage, because it's just what happens. And then you just need to give it a goodly stir, preferably without whipping in too many air bubbles, because if you whip in lots of air bubbles, then you need to get them out. For this make, it's not so critical, but you know, it's not really what you want to do. And because I'm using a Stamperia mold, I can't really take a heat gun to that to blow bubble, and I don't want to take a naked flame to it either to rub it. So my resin has gone from slightly cloudy now to being actually completely crystal clear as I run it down. So that tells me actually I have mixed that quite well. You're meant to mix it for a couple of minutes, and that is absolutely fine. So let me just we'll leave that on there for the moment. And I am going to start by just adding in some iridescent gold glitter. This is ultra fine glitter. If you put thick glitter in, then it will float to the surface, which will be the back of your mold rather than saying suspended. And I want a goodly quantity of that in there. It doesn't look like I've put enough in, so I'm just going to pop a bit more in because I've got 40 mils. There we are. And if you're not a glitter person but like a little bit of shimmer, this will work. Okay, there we are. So I've mixed that all through into there. Now I don't want to put that straight into my mold because it's full of air bubbles and I can't heat my mold. So I'm just going to pop a heat gun over this to help pop out as many of the many bubbles as possible. And if I heat it from below, that will also cause the air bubbles to come up to the surface, and then I will be able to pop them. If you're putting it into a silicone mold, then it really isn't a problem, because you can put a heat gun over the top of the silicone mold. But as I say, you can't do that with a plastic mold. So there we are. And what the other thing that using a heat gun does is that it makes the resin more fluid. Now this is a super fluid resin from Penta, and that means it has quite a long working time, which is also cool. It's about 40-minute working time. The downside is that it will take 24 hours or more to set, which is why I've got one already made for you, so that we can then add the other colours into it. So there we are. I've got rid of most of the bubbles from there now, and all you need to do is make sure you've got your mold in a relatively stable place, and then you can pour this into your mold quite happily. I'm hoping that I've actually made enough, but it's not critical if I haven't, because you see I haven't. Okay, so at this stage I clearly haven't made enough for that mold, and that is absolutely fine. That's the process for making the resin that I wanted to show you rather than anything else, and I can top that up at any stage with what I want. So that's also just cool. So let me just pop the worst of that into there, and And so I'm not going to add more into there for this make because it doesn't really matter. But I am going to just lift this mould up a little bit so it is more flat. There we are. That's better. That's better. And I say, on my normal resin station, I have that set so it's completely flat, and that then doesn't happen. That then won't happen, if that makes sense, because I've got it set up, and I can now pop that out of harm's way. I don't have any animals, so I'm going to pop it on the floor where I'm not likely to stay, and therefore, and just leave it dry. If you leave your stick in your pot, then once it's completely set, it will. You'll be able to pull anything off, and I'm just going to wipe that excess off there, move that around. So once it's had the required amount of time to set, you can then get rid of your gloves, pop them out of the way, because it's in this form it's no longer toxic or dangerous to you, which is cool. So this is what my piece looked like when it first came out of my mould. It is glittery and sparkly from the iridescent gold, but I didn't want it necessarily to be all like that. I want it to be a bit more magical, a bit more mystery, a bit more dark. It really isn't picking up the colours wonderfully well, but you can see that the two pieces are completely different. And to do that was relatively simple. I have just taken some media inks. She says, promptly spilling it every which way. And so these are alcohol inks, and I can just spread that around. The bottom bit doesn't matter so terribly much because ultimately it's going to be covered with black. Let me just mop that up. So this is an alcohol-based ink, and it will dry quite quickly, and that one is in the colour Jade. I've got some coral blue, so we'll add some bits of coral blue into there just to add some extra colour, and we're going to have to add some violet around the edges, and this is what's allowed me to build just the colour, the mix, and the end, and just add a little bit of extra. Not all of it will shine through, but it's going to just allow me to change the colour of that. And I now need to let that dry. As I say, it really won't take very long, and you're not going to use very much of it. And I love them. Well, she's daft if she's not. I mean, I'm not sensitive to the resin. I know I'm not sensitive to it, but as a doctor, I know full well that if you repeatedly expose yourself to resin, you run the risk of becoming sensitive. Now, these are alcohol-based inks, so I'm just going to, but I do need to dry this to turn it over, and I should be able to show you the effect that doing that does. So I've added a blue, there we are, that's better, the light's sitting, blue, green, and a purple. So, and it's really not as dark as it's appearing on that screen, and I've got my lights on, there we are, that's better, that's altogether better. So that should now be dry, and if I turn it over, you can now see that my gold glittered component, which is just here, that's completely uncovered, now has shades of pinks and purples and the blues and the greens in it. Yeah, so it's become very, very pretty, if that makes sense to everyone. So I'm going to pop that to the side, and we're going to return. We will return to that in a minute. I'm rather hope. No, they're not dry. So we're going to do some painting, and as ever, I have done some bits and pieces already. So let me just swap some of this over onto here. We haven't got masses of bits, which is cool. Let me pop that there, and we can move that out of the way. That can go into there. So I have some different bits and pieces here. Let's just pop these out, because as you can see, I've got them set for some slightly different effects, and I definitely need to add some white onto some of these and some of the metallic gold onto others pieces. 1, 2, 3, 4. Right, that can go that way, that can go that way, that one can go that way. Excellent. So let's just pop that into there. Pop that over there for the moment. We've got 4 of these. So these all come from the Fortune mould collection. These come out of 1 mould, which is cool. So we have handed pieces. So if people don't know what I mean by handed, we've got left and right facing moulds, which is always cool. Actually, that's not how I'm intending using them, but I quite like them. So we might have a change of plan for that one. And I'll talk you through that. So all I've done is cast my pieces in white resin and then added black primer paste gesso over the top of them, and it took me a couple of goes, and I can still see areas that I've missed. Hello Esther, welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you, Marjorie. Yeah, it's definitely a cool effect, isn't it? I like it a lot. So we're just going to add some more of this antique gold into here. There we are. We'll just give this a covering. And the metallic paints, for I don't know why, but they just do work better when you pop them over a black surface. It's just one of those things. They are more shiny when you put them onto a metal surface. So yeah, I had a lot of fun playing with that effect, and I've got some different things that I've done in slightly different ways, but using the same products and a few other bits. So for another live, another time, because I think if you're encouraged to buy some clear resin, you don't want it to be a one-trick pony. You need to have several other ways of using it, and I might then might dig out some other alternative molds as well. Because I don't think it's responsible just to buy something for just one project and then it sit in the back of the cupboard unloved. So this mould has got an incredible amount of detail on it, and takes a little bit of painting to get into all of the nooks, the crannies, the hieroglyphics that are in there, just because it's better to have a complete coverage if you can. So there we are. So you don't want thick globules of paint in the crevices, in the depths though, because if you put thick globules in, like I've done there, then ultimately you'll lose the detail of your mould. So I'm going to flick out the worst of it that I've put into there and spread it about a bit further, whilst we carry on quite happily. So I trust everyone is well, and if you're in the UK, hopefully you've seen the weather forecast that suggests that we might be getting some better weather next week, and we might vaguely have some summer weather arriving, in which case at this time next week I might be cooking in my conservatory. But hey ho, we can't have it always, do we? And as we all know, the Brits love a good moan about the weather. It just wouldn't be us if we didn't. But there we are. When I'm moving back and forth, it's because I can see areas that I've overfilled or missed, and I'm just spreading that paint around a little bit more to do that. So in the vain attempt at keeping my hands vaguely clean, we'll come around the edge of that bit, and we'll come around the edge of this bit. It will be a recipe of failure because I never paint without getting my hands mucky. It's anyone who watches me on a regular basis will know I'm the queen of getting paint and muck on my hands. But as I say, when I'm using resin, I've put you really should put a pair of gloves on to protect your hands. And that's not because I'm worried about it being sticky. It is purely that delayed sensitivity reactions can happen or be acquired even after you've been using a product for many, many years. And once they happen, they're a nightmare, because you're likely to cross-react with the sensitive is likely to cross-react with lots of other things that you might come across in your daily life. So it's better and safer to avoid your skin being exposed and developing that contact sensitivity in the first place. And I wouldn't be being fair to anyone by not saying that. The resin is odourless, or to my nose is odourless. The media inks definitely have a smell, and if you're using significant quantities, then work in a well ventilated area, because again, alcohol fumes are not necessarily the best things for you to be inhaling. Ordinary acrylic paints, it does not matter. So we've just got, well, for me, we haven't actually got that many pieces to paint today. I pared it back. But as I say, I wanted to show you how to use that resin, and explain the safety importance of it. And the safety things apply to any resin, ladies. It's not just the Pentart one. It's a good general health advice to avoid exposure if you can. So, but as I say, so how holding this up like this with it tilted, you can just see just how much detail this mold has in it, and it's far easier actually to see now that it's not black. The black area I can see detail, but it's not so obvious for anyone else watching. And you could just paint your thing, you mold it back, and then add waxes or chrome powders mixed with transparent wax to highlight the detail, if that's what you wanted. So many options to do with molds, which is one of the reasons why I absolutely, totally and utterly love them. So we're going to have some areas where I'm not got completely into it, but that's okay. We'll live with that. We will live with that. It is, as I say, a very detailed mold. So let me just add some pieces onto these. There we are. We're going to end up with mucky hands. I just know I'm going to end up with mucky hands because, well, that's just the way it is, isn't it, really? It just is the way it is. There we are. Have I managed to cover all the sides? Yeah, I have. You see, now it's easier to put it on the flat of my hand, so I'm going to end up, this is when I'm going to end up sticky messy. I can feel it happening. It surely is an amazing mold, Sheila. It's a Stamperia mold from the Fortune collection, and these sort of cartouche elements also come in that mold, and there's two different types, and they're left and they're right-handed, so very, very usable. And they're usable for adding onto things, adding detail. They're useful as standalone embellishments. So yeah, but if you're going to buy swirly pieces like this, then my suggestion is that you try and buy ones where they are handed, because I can almost guarantee that if there's only one that's facing left, you'll want the one that's facing right for your project, and vice versa, or you'll want one to face left and one to face right. And if you haven't got it, it then becomes very frustrating, and you have to think of an alternative way of linking everything together. Perfectly possible, but it's up to you as to how you do it. And as I say, I could have cast these all in the super glass resin, and that would have been fine. Painted them black, and then painted with black gesso, and then with this, I've just painted. I tend to keep my clear resin for things where I want the translucency, if that makes sense, and partly because it does take a longer time, and it takes quite a bit of planning to let it dry properly. So there we are. Okay. So that can go there, that can go there. We can lid that. And then we can wipe that gold down. Let's pop that there. And let's wipe that off. Good evening, Anna. Yeah, there's no happy medium. Good evening, Jill. Good evening, Blanche. Welcome. The mirror image molds. So do you mean left and right? Yeah. When I'm saying handed, yes, I do mean left and right. Facing molds, yeah, or mirror image molds, so that you can work in two directions. So let's just pop that up over there. That can sit on there. That can sit there. Let's just mop that over there. And then I've taken some more molds from the piece. I'm actually going to use this little one, not that big one, but I'm going to show you what difference adding the black does to this, because it really does darken the effect, and allows that. So first of all, I know I need to put, so I've primed these with white gesso for the white areas, white primer paste, and black for the black areas, if that makes any sense to you. And now I'm going to add some cream white onto the elements that are white, because I am going to, horror of horrors, distress those. And the white gesso is just too stark. So there we are. Let's just pop that onto there. Pop that onto there. There we are. And of course, you can spend as much time as you want doing this, or as little time as you want doing this. There's lots and lots of detail in this mould from the book pages. There we are. So let's pop that over there. The mould comes with 2 different sizes of candles. And I've painted the waxy part of the candle in white primer paste, and now I'm popping the cream on it, and it's just black gesso on the stand, because I thought that that would work quite nicely. And I did that, the white gesso, off camera, because I just thought it was going to take a bit, it would take quite a long time to do all of those bits. And they're reasonably fiddly. I don't say they're impossibly fiddly, but they're definitely reasonably fiddly to paint with any degree of accuracy. And I just thought it was going to be easier to do that. So have I got 25 tons of colours out for me this evening, as I usually do? The answer is no, I haven't. I've got the gold, I've got the cream, I've got the black gesso, the white gesso, and that's it in terms of paints. I know what's gone wrong. I do have a plan, and it won't be a project that is devoid of colour, but it's just going to be different, because there aren't floral elements and there aren't flower leaves and greenery onto here. So I just think that this is going to work quite nicely. And sitting on my floor, there are 9 prepped projects, or project ideas and concepts, that I will use over the next few weeks for my own lives, and also for Pentart's lives. So that's always cool, because that's what I tend to do. Okie dokie. So those are those. That can go there. That can go there. So let's just pick up our inked piece and get rid of that white gesso, and let's show you what a difference adding the black on makes to this piece, which really is very shiny. And it may just be that some of the color is actually better with the that will do, with the bigger piece than on the smaller piece that I'm actually going to use in the project for at the end. But there we are. So literally all I'm going to do now is add the black in the same way as I did to the others. So it's the primer or primer paste, the black gesso, because this will adhere to the resin. I know I normally use bonding primer, but that is white, and that's not the colour that I want to add onto this piece. So there we are, you can see, and this is already darkening, and now I can just add this on, and I will use this piece in a different project. But this is what I did for the other pieces, and I need to let those inks underneath dry properly because they're not quite dry, and that's fine. And I might need a couple of layers to get full coverage onto this. We can see already, just by adding that black, that it's darkening the whole piece. It's magical. And with the glitter, iridescent glitter that I put in it, it's got a golden hue and absolutely a sparkle. And the next thing that you can do is you can add pouring glaze, because when you take some of, if you've got a non-shiny mold that you're lifting your resin piece out, then it goes very matte. Now the joy of the plastic molds is that they've got quite a shiny surface, and you don't get a huge difference in appearance when you add a shine over the top of it, but pouring glaze will work as a glaze over to restore the shininess to your matte molded pieces without adding lots of bulk. There we are. So it really does become much more moody when you've got the black underneath, because some of that is reflecting through. So let's pop that over there. That can go in there. That can go there. We'll tuck that out of harm's way, and we're going to get every last bit of that black off our hands, because the black will get onto everything, because it always does. It always does. And we might need to get a heat gun out and do a little bit of blasting of stuff dry, because why not? So that's dry. That one doesn't need to be dry. So this does, that does, that does. Those do, and my hoops do. So let's just pop all of these pieces down onto here. Hello, Miss Anne. Welcome, my darling. Welcome, welcome. So let's just give this a goodly dry. Hi, B. Thank you for joining us. I didn't see you come in. I'm sorry if I ignored you when you did come in. There we are. And as I say, this isn't a hugely complicated piece, but I did want to show you that resin effect, because I just think it's just magical. And sometimes it pays just to be that, do something that's just a little bit different. You're very used to me seeing me use rice papers and painting lots of resin pieces, but I do lots of other things. I used to be a jewellery maker, so I've got lots of jewellery making skills, and so I've used resin for jewellery making or clear casting probably for 15 plus years, certainly a long time. Just leave these to dry and to dry properly. And there's nothing else we can do apart from the fact that when that stuff takes time to dry on arrive, doesn't it? That's all there is to it. It just does take time. I happen to know that I'm going to treat those gold pieces differently to these pieces. So let me just pop that over there to cool down, because one of the things with the metal paints is that they can sometimes be a bit tacky when they're warm, and so sometimes it makes sense just to actually let them cool down before doing things. Those are still wet on the edges. I can feel that they are. Well, that can sit there, that can sit there, blowing those at that for the moment. And let me just pick up these pieces. See what I mean by paint is sticky? There we are. We'll get rid of that. So let's just tuck that over there, that over there. That can sit there. Let's turn that off for the moment, and we'll come back to those, and we can do the next bits of this whilst these are, you can see I think that's definitely still wet on the edges. I'll pop that over there out of harm's way, clear off some of that yuck again, because I don't really want yucky, mucky, sticky fingers, because that's never good, is it? Yucky. Let's move those out of harm's way. They can move over to there. And then we can do, there we are. So we've got some Pentart Express glue. And horror of horrors, some fussy cut elements from the paper pads and some ephemera. Let's just pop those over there, out of harm's way for the time being. There we are. And let's add it. So I bought the single-sided pads of paper because, yes, it costs a bit more because there are physically more pages, but you can use every bit of the paper as opposed to having to decide which side you're going to use. So let's just add some express glue onto here. There we are. Good, generous quantity of that. And I'm going to be frugal. I'm going to pop that up over there because then I can cut this piece off and use some more of it later on. That's not going to be visible in the finished piece. And is that vaguely right? Yes, probably that will do. So that can now go down on the floor. And we can rinse and repeat for my bigger hoop here. There we are. I like using embroidery hoops. I know I used one the other day in a very different style. I like the circular format, and I wanted 3 circles for this project for balance. And I ummed and ahed about using 3 embroidery hoops, and then decided that actually my 3rd circle could be the big gold piece that I painted, the resin piece, and it didn't need another separate element. I have done projects where I've layered 3 different sized embroidery hoops. So let's just turn this over, and then we can pop this into here. And I'm not wanting the female form on my make, but I do want the words in my piece, and I quite like that. And of course that piece was going to be ultimately hidden, but I didn't want to use the female form in here. Not that it would really matter, you could do. So let's just pop that down there. That can give it a little bit to dry, and let's see if I can get these pieces to dry for the next stages. How tacky is that? That's still damp, so all of these just now need another good blast with the heat gun just to get them dry. But as you can see, for me, I really haven't got anywhere near the number of elements I will often have out. And so I might change my plan and add 2 of those in. Let's get that one dry as well. So we're going to use 2 different effects on the white pieces, and 1, possibly 2 on the gold pieces. It's possibly okay now. Possibly. So let's just leave those pieces over there to continue on their process while we take these pieces and do their different effects. So I have my beloved Umbra, because why wouldn't I have my beloved Umbra, and a very, very battered natural skip brush here, and I'm just going to add, and this is just my brushes sit in turpentine, so that they are so I've just made it more, my Umbra, much more liquid by using turpentine on them, if that makes sense. And this is now going to, it will now antique in here reasonably effectively and help show all the layers. There we are. And my white creamy candles are now a little bit more distressed. There we are. So that can now go back into there. Let's just wipe that off my hands, and then I can just tap some of that excess off there, leaving it in the nooks and the crannies. There we are. Pop that over there, and let's just give those a little blast dry, and at the same time we'll carry on, we'll add some little bit more heat to these. I'd rather the turpentine white spirits actually moved on its own and evaporated, but again I'm going to end up using my heat gun for those, just to speed the drying up. Because I'm on the live, but as I say, normally I would just walk away and let it settle itself down. It won't take very long for the white spirit to dry, I don't think. Yellow spirit in there to dry. You can see that it's evaporating nicely. There we are. So these are just, the paper has very definitely got vintage hues and a vintage style. It's not clean, bright whites and things. There are some whites on it, but it's not completely the same. Yeah. Okay. So let's just take some of our chalky white onto here. Knock most of that back off my brush. And then add some lightness to the tops of these pieces, so it's not all a flat colour. There we are. Just helps bring out some of that detail. And the clue is in the name. You're dry brushing, you're using little layers of paint, but it just adds just a little bit more detail onto those pieces. Don't want lots onto there, so let me just pop those onto there. So that's going to bring out the details in the book. Enjoy. Every moment is a sacred, like a step on a pathway. And I can't read all the rest of it, but there are words on there that are readable, I think. There we are. Don't necessarily want that white on there. I'm picking up some of the Umbra on that, but that's okay. Yeah, that can go there. That can go there. Let's get the rest of the Umbra off my hands. Really lovely. That can pop that onto there, and that can go there. And then I'm just going to take some gold wax. You can see how well loved my gold wax is. It's almost finished. So there we are. So my book is on a lectern embellished with gold. Was the full process. So I've got my vintage pages on its open lectern, and because there's so much detail in these molds, there we are, you can see just how much detail. I really didn't think it needed lots of complexity, because I think the mold just does all of the work. There we are. There we are. There we are. Just does lots of the work for me. There we are. I can go on to there. So this is the big piece, and I might not use it, but let's just complete it for completeness sake. So you can see now the detail coming back into what was quite a dark piece. There we are. Okay, let's just pop those over there. Pop those over there. That can go over there. And I'm just going to clean that. I've got more, Sarah. I've absolutely got more. I'm trying to be a good girl, though, and use the open pots rather than grabbing a new one, just because it might look better on alive. I do think it's important, because I get, lots of my products sent to me, that we use stuff up and we are responsible with doing things. So let's see. These are still a bit tacky, which is unfortunate. How long? Oh, I've not been on that long. Okie dokie. We really haven't been on that long. Well, not that long for me. There we are. I'm not picking stuff up left there, so let's go for it. So in my papers, I've got greens and greeny blues and blues. So I have got the patina green and the patina blue antiquing gels. And I've had these since they were first released, which is 3 Christmases ago. And this is one of my go-to techniques. Is the patinas onto this gold background. I just love the effect I get. And you do want to get into the nooks and the crannies, because otherwise the gold will poke through, and you might not want it to poke through. There we are. And this will dry. Once it's dried, you can't shift it, so you do need a damp cloth and to wipe back. Okay, let's move. I'm going to deliberately mix these colours together on here. So we've got them mixed up rather than it being a single flat colour. And it's definitely better if you can get into all of the nooks and the crannies. Though I accept with this piece, that's a little bit of a big ask. Here we are. And I've been very naughty there because I've just dunked my green brush into my blue paint, but that was intentional. And these are my pots of paint, so I'm not going to be asking other people to do that. But globally, it's not a good practice to colour mix unless you're happy to have a hybrid colour to use long term on all of your projects, because you will contaminate your colours and it will ultimately alter how they appear. But that's okay. I'm not overly mithered about that at this point in time, because I'm wanting the colours to shade on my piece anyway, so that will work for me. But you do you, obviously, when you're working with your pieces. There we are. So let's just wipe that off onto here as we can. So this is just going to help bring out all of these, and it's going to link these pieces to the colours of the papers. And I might need to just open up and fold that piece, that wipe, onto a different area, because if you carry on wiping with the same bit that's already covered in paint, all you're doing is moving the paint around, which is okay, but maybe not quite what you want to do. If you're wanting to lift the paint off, then you need to have a cleaned piece to do that with. There we are. So by mixing the colours, I'm getting a very different effect between the whole pieces, and it's helping me to blend these together. And the antiquing pet gels sit, of course, in the depths of the project. There we are. So wiggling it into the nooks and the crannies is quite a good move. And again, it means I don't need to add wax onto this, because I've got all of that beautiful detail added without needing to put wax on the top. Let me just clean that off there with a cleaner bit of that cloth. Will really help lift some of that. There we are. Let's just take a clean wipe. There we are. And bring in some more of that detail by wiping back over the top. You can see it's not completely dry, so I'm still being able to lift colour off here, and it's brought back in a lot more of the gold that I put on right at the beginning, which was what I wanted. So let's just treat these pieces in exactly the same way. We'll have some of that, we'll have some of that. We'll have some of that onto there. We'll add some of that onto there. There we are. And let's just carry it. Thank you, Gillian. It is a lovely, lovely effect. And it's just, so you take your piece of moulding, this is a different shape albeit, cover it completely, and then when you wipe back, you just see all of that incredible detail pops through, because the colours are sitting in all of the nooks and the crannies, and you end up with filthy hands. Good evening, Betty. Welcome, my darling. Welcome, welcome. So let's just take that paint off my which I don't want on my candlesticks. Oh, it might be an interesting effect to dry, but I don't particularly want it there for this make. And then let's just do the same for these pieces. I love this. These colours are definitely some of my go-tos, I have to say. I do absolutely love it. There we are. Oops. So although it looks like I'm being generous, there's 150 mils in these pots. So actually a little goes a long way. And as I say, these are my first pots that I've had and used on many, many occasions for 3+ years now. So yeah. So if I take this piece and just wipe back again, it just adds lots of detail in and the gold shows through. So yes, there's lots of processes, yes, there's lots of steps, but I think the end result is so worth it. Thank you, Betty. Much appreciated. Much appreciated. Right, let us de-yuck the fingers. For Bee's benefit, we'll stick that up there. Those can dry. And then we'll de-yuck the hands, because you can't de-yuck hands without those, without having something wet. So let's just pop that over there. There, finished pieces, there, finished pieces, there, finished pieces. Excellent. We might need some ink out in a minute. Horror of horrors, but we might. There we are. Right. We did that piece first, so with a bit of luck, well, I can see that that paint has not, the glue is not completely dry. So please, if you want to do something like this, again, just let your glue dry and have a sharp blade for your piece. Because it will be much easier when you're not working on a wet surface. There we are. The messy bit at the top will ultimately be hidden, so that's less of a problem, but we'll nip out what we can. There we are. We can fold that over. We do have some scissors. There we are. Okay. So the advantage, of course, of using double-sided papers at this stage is the back would look pretty as well, but as the back will get hung up on a wall, that's less of a problem. And I'd have to say that on balance, I quite like the single-sided papers. My only gripe about them is that you don't get the fussy cut elements that you get on the back cover of the double-sided one. So let's just take this one. Let's take all of those, pop them up there, out of harm's way, just whilst, and excuse my husband moving the bins, because that's what he's doing. There we are. We'll pop this piece into here. Right, and then we can do the same. Could I have done this before the live? Yeah. Would it have been sensible to do it before the live? Probably not. You could disagree, and if you do, please let me know, and I'll know better for next time and what works for you better for next time, because ultimately that's the more important thing for me, is what works for you. Yeah. So sharp knife blade really does make a big difference. Pop that over, chop that out, keep the scraps of paper for something else. And in this case, I will be keeping the scraps of paper. Thank you, Betty. It is from Fortune by Stamperia. Okay. So let's just start to pop this together. Okay. Right, excellent. So I know I need to have something lurking underneath there to help support that. So let me just grab some bits and pieces of scrap just to help support this piece. Do I have two of the same pieces? Do I to mount up neatly? We found some small circles. So let me just grab these pieces. So I want that there, so that can go there. That's a different height. So let's just pop some of these into here. If I stack these up on top of each other, yeah, Sarah, you take your choice. And if you want lots of images, then you can always use the washi pad for your extra images. So that would work. It's not quite the same height as that, but hey ho, it's going to help. Goodly glob of gel medium on the back of it will also help. So let me just see where, yeah, so that's immediately more stable. And as I say, I can pop some gel medium onto there. And I know that I'm wanting this piece to go here. So let me just move these down to nearer where I want to pop them. And then we will be able to work. And as I say, a goodly glob of gel medium on there will help stabilize everything. What I did have, there we are, there's my heavy body gel mat. So we can grab that and there we are, pop that onto there. So I know I've got a very generous quantity of that there. There we are. So that can sit there. And that piece can sit on there. So that needs to go there. I know that I want to have that piece sitting approximately. Let me just move it down a bit. There we are. Approximately there. And I'm going to add some extra pieces now to help balance this out. Because again, that's tipping and on the wonk. So let's just grab some of these pieces. Oh. So there's a reason why I don't throw stuff out. There we are. So that needs to be a little bit supported there. 1, 2, 3. So I'm going to add this piece under there because that's going to help support that. So I can just pop my gel medium onto there, pop that there, and that will help support that piece a little bit better. Yep. Okay. And I still think I'm going to need a bit more support underneath there, but there we are. We'll deal with it as we need to. Now then, what did I do? Oh, that's what I did with that. There we are, she says. And I've got 2 of those. So there we are. So I'm going to start popping some of these pieces in and underneath and around. Okay, so I want that there. I can see that that's tipping, so I need to add another piece. Let's stick that there. I need to add a little bit more support over here onto that because it's still tipping and I don't want it to. So let me just add, that's possibly up too high, but I think that's going to be more stable for me long term than if I don't add that onto it. There we are. So those are on there. Let's just add. That's better. I immediately feel that that is more stable by doing that. Let me just pop that over there, down there. X. And now that's no longer tipping. So just be prepared to, to alter what you're doing. I think I can probably get some more of these pieces into there for stability for this piece. So as I say, just don't be afraid to layer these. None of these elements are going to be visible in the finished piece. So Okay. So that will be visible. So let's get rid of that piece, and then let's just add some gel medium onto the back of here. There we are, generous quantity of that. And that piece is now going to sit on there. Nice piece of that visible. That's visible nicely. Okay. So I quite like that. And then we might need some extra pieces to support some of this. So I'm going to pop that one, because I did think about it, surprisingly. Can tuck underneath there. I should have a second one. I do have a second one of those. And I'm going to pop that one, I think, onto there, because I think it's going to look nicer on there. Or shall I pop that piece onto there? I'm going to pop that piece tucked into here, just poking its way out. Let's just clear that blob of gel medium out of the way. There we are. That one can go onto there. Okay. So what am I going to do with all the other pieces, I hear you asking? Haha, we have a plan. We have a plan. Let's find these pieces. Right. Oh, I have. There is my bird. So I like to have titles on my pieces. So let's just pop that over there. So alchemy is the transformation of the ordinary into the extraordinary. So we've got some plain embroidery hoops, everyday ordinary. Yeah, everyday ordinary. I think that counts as everyday ordinary. So let's just pop that onto the center of there. We have a piece of ephemera. Let's just take a piece of that. And we're going to pop our bird onto there, because I like him there. And then we've got some other bits and pieces to tackle. So if we put my brain back where it was when I first started creating, and then we can start tucking in some of these other pieces. So I want that and that and that. There we are, and that. And let's see, as I say, my original plan was to use the little one, but we might choose to use the big one, because actually the big one's going to sit there quite nicely, isn't it? And then we can tuck the baby maybe next to it, or leave the baby off. We'll have a see. So I've still got some other pieces here that I know that I want to use on this piece, because I've got a bare area that I want to start adding some extra pieces to. So these come out from the paper pad, and you've seen me working this way on many occasions. So that is going to tuck into there, deliberately up and over. And that will go into there. And then we have our lady that's going to be almost invisible, but that's okay. In fact, we might pop that into there and that piece into there, because it's all but buried. Yeah, in there. And then I've got some other bits that I may or may not add in. I'm not a great fan of those, so let's just pop that over there. But I do have the cards from which are cut from the back cover. So let's just pop those into there. So I think at this point I can start building some of this in together, because I know exactly where I'm wanting to go. So there we are. So I know this seems completely daft. I've spent ages popping everything into place, but now I'm going to lift it up out of the way. There we are. But that's okay, because this is just going to allow me to build my composition. And I want her partly up. So let me just grab a blob, because that's going to help sit that up. And then let's just have another blob. Blob being technical term, of course, because we all know what blobs are. And I might have to go and grab another pot of gel medium in a minute. So that's going to sit there. Okie dokie. So then I have one of the flowers cut from the papers. And I'm going to pop that, I think, into there, because I think it's going to sit nicely there. And then I can pop so that can sit there. Candle can go back into there. So let's just take that. And he's going to sit on there without popping out. So I can lift that off, This piece can definitely now sit down. And because of using the gel medium, it'll give me wriggle time to lift and move while I tuck other pieces in and underneath. As you can see, I go through lots of gel medium. Okay, and I'm going to pop this piece underneath, but that can go flat. Yeah, I've got to have a bird. That piece can go just into there. It's filling that gap. Okie dokie. So he is going to sit on there. Does it matter that he's a bit wonky? No, it doesn't at this stage. So I need a blob there that's going to catch on there. And I need some blobs at the edges that are going to catch on some of these other pieces. So I need some under that bit, some under that bit there, and that will then sit into there. That can sit onto there, but with that piece tucked underneath there. So that is going to have to sugar up a little bit. There we are, the joy of gel medium, and that can go into there. And maybe we wouldn't have, the reality of life is you wouldn't have a lit candle next to a deck of cards, but hey ho, this is creativity, isn't it? It just gives you that freedom to have what you want where you want. So that can now go onto there. So yeah. I will get the gel medium out of my pot. There we are. Okay. So I want some onto there. Oops, I don't want it onto the front of my thing. Never mind, I'll tackle that in a minute. Want some of it there, some of it there, some of it there. Hopefully, some of it on the edge of there. And then I can wipe off what I don't want. There we are. Excellent. So let's just give that a little bit of a clean now, because we've clearly got gel medium where we don't want it, and that's fine. So let's just spend just a little bit of time taking that gel medium off there, out of these pieces, and out of here. Wet brush is almost the best thing for doing this with. If I don't get it out, it will dry white. It's not going to look very attractive. So I'm just going to wash it out now, because is going to be better washed out. There we are. So those pieces will sit there. Those will support each other. That will support each other. My book needs to be flat. Yes, that's okay. So I definitely have a space here I want to fill. And I'm sure I had more than one of these, which I might not use. Anyway, let's just start adding some extra pieces into here to fill those gaps. And as I say, I'm debating whether I want to add that other piece. So this is just a fussy cut element from the papers. It mirrors the piece that's down there anyway. So I think that will look quite nice tucked into there, and it fills that corner up for me. So let me just pop dabble some glues around and hope that some of it catches on some of the pieces. So that can then tuck underneath there. There we are. And we've got a little bit of a gap there, but that's okay. We've got some gemstone pieces. This is from the ephemera that I'm going to just tuck underneath there, just again to fill that hole and start linking the pieces together. We've got some pots. So let's see where we're going to go. Do we want a pot? That's not going to sit in flat, but I might just, let's just see where we're up to. I think I had some of these lurking into here. Well, maybe I didn't. Maybe I didn't. I can't remember now, but that's okay. We'll just build it as we go, because that's just life, isn't it? There we are. Let's just lift that, pop that into there. I think that will work into that one. Let's just pop that, and we might just pop that. Do I like that over there? I'm not too sure whether I do or whether I don't, but that's okay. We can, you know, creativity is just fine, isn't it? But we do have paper elements that we might add in, and I quite like that tucked underneath there. I might lift that up a little bit and pop that into there, because that's, to me, is going to work. I deliberately want, I want some dimension on this. Don't want to get my hot glue gun out. So there we are. So let's just pop that under there, so that can sit there. That will work. Quite like that sitting on there. Do I want an extra piece tucked into there? I think I do. So let me just ink the edges of this one. And add that candle onto there, and it can tuck underneath. There we are. So it's under and over. Get rid of that gloomy gel medium. Okie dokie. And then see that, I think that now will work on there, and that will work. Will that work? I don't know. Yeah, I think that does work on there. So let's just hold that. On there. It's going to hold because that's a piece of ephemera. Yeah, and we'll pop that onto there because I think I prefer that over there now. There we are. And we're just building up. So we've got magical plants and things. And we've got gemstones if we want to add them. But actually, I'm thinking that there is enough on here. I don't know about you. So I have my land of fantasy, alchemy, because that's what it was, wasn't it? In ancient times. Do I want to add that over there? I I don't know whether I do want to add that. So my intention wasn't to use this, it was to use that piece. But I do know what I do want to do, just while the going's good. Because there are some extra details on that. There we are. There we are. So we're going to leave that little lot, pop it off to the side. We've got mucky, sticky, icky fingers, but that's also all just cool. So let's just pop that over there. You've seen how I've used the clear resin tonight. Thank you, Jan. Let's say I'm umming and ahhing. I may yet pop that onto there. What do we think? Yay or nay? We'll see. We'll see. We might pop some little gemstones under there. We're fiddling. Sometimes fiddling isn't good. We're going to leave it as it is. In the world of fantasy, just something a little different. And I hope that you've enjoyed the live this evening. I will be back, I think, next week with a regular... You like it on there? Okay. Well, we'll put it there then. That's fine. That's not a problem. Let's just pick that up. It sort of does link everything, doesn't it? There we are. Link that onto there. What we could do then is stick some extra bits tucked into there. Let me just grab a bit bigger piece of gel medium because we've now got a gap. The gaps need to be filled in my head. So sorry for making you think that I might be about to finish the live and then deciding alternative suggestions. But hey ho. There we are. We can then pop that under there. That works. Let's just pop, that's a green leaf from the collection. So we might stick that under as well. Just poked out from there. Let's just pop that little bottle underneath there as well. There we are. So that these pieces are all grounded, if that makes sense. So we're definitely going to... we're touching on some bits, aren't we? There we are. Let's just pop some of that over there. Pop that over there. That can sit there. Excellent. Right, we really are finished now. We really are. There comes a time and a place when you just have to say, enough is enough. And I think I'm there for tonight. So, ladies, please stay safe with whatever you're doing. I hope you're encouraged to get out some clear resin and have a play with glitters and maybe some alcohol inks. I will be back next week live, which will be just cool. I will see you on my regular Sunday live this week. So take care. Please stay safe. Let me just shovel that up into there a bit so you can see the bottom of it. I will take some photos of it in the week, when it's had a chance to properly set. And I will see you soon. Bye.